All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of Who Needs a Film Critic? I'm your host, William Yelton, and today we will be talking about the new Netflix smash hit, Squid Game. Now, because this is a new YouTube channel, let me explain the idea of what we are trying to do here. Nothing against them, but far too often, the critics get too much say in the reviews of movies and TV shows that we all watch. A lot of audiences we see have a huge disparity between what the critics think and what the audience thinks. For the most extreme example, look no further than the controversial sequel to the newest Star Wars trilogy, The Last Jedi. After the critics weighed in on the movie, Rotten Tomatoes gave the film a 91%. That was a bit different than what the audience thought. They gave it a 42%. And the opposite can also be said. Ironically, the next film in the franchise, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, has an 86% audience score, whereas the critics seem to differ, averaging a score at 52%. So this channel is all about taking back some of that power from the critics and hearing from various people from all walks of life. Everyone you see here on this panel is your average movie and TV show enthusiasts. None of them have a background in film or talk about film theory on their free time. These are doctors, lawyers, some work in tech, others in finance, and everything in between. We also have a wide range of ages, ethnicities, and geographic locations across North America represented to take part in this panel. The one thing they all share, however, is their love of entertainment. And today they have agreed to take part in a panel discussing the premiere episode of Squid Game. So now that you have the background out of the way, it goes without question that Squid Game is a very popular show right now. Not only is the show already on its way to become Netflix's biggest non-English language show in the world, but according to a Netflix CEO, it might very well be on track to become Netflix's biggest show ever. Regardless of the popularity, some of you on the panel might love what you've seen, while others might hate it, and that's okay. We're here to take part in a meaningful discussion where all viewpoints are respected, but debate is encouraged. At the end of our discussion, each of you will rate the first episode of Squid Game from 1 to 5, and we will combine all of your scores and give this episode of Squid Game an average score provided by you, the panel as a whole. The participants on this panel have only seen episode 1 and are unspoiled about the rest of the season. So let's begin this discussion. First off, I want each of you to say one word that comes to your mind about this premiere.
Good.
Intriguing.
Insane.
Frustrating.
Desperate.
Crazy.
Thrilling.
Shocking.
Low budget.
Provoking.
Quirky.
All right. Great words, everyone. Great insight. But now let's go a little bit more in depth. I'd like to begin talking about the overall structure of the premiere. Now, a series premiere is very different than a normal episode of television. In TV, we often refer to the first episode of a show as a pilot. So the first question I'd like to lay out before all of you, did the first episode have a good hook? Are you left wanting more? Who wants to take the floor?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to watch more. I'm very intrigued. It was frustrating it was frustrating to stop watching at the first episode. I really want to know what happens next. I think the first episode is probably going to be the weakest out of the bunch. And that's what the main character is just insufferable. I was trying to get his name. Seong Gi-Hun was his name. He's completely insufferable. He infuriates me every step of the way. I want to slap him in the face 50 times myself. But I think that the concept of this show, it's very like Sequester meets Hunger Games, and I think it's very interesting, and I really want to know what happens next. So it definitely grips me, and it was hard to stop watching the first episode.
Who else would like to chime in?
I liked what I saw, to be honest. I feel like, to go back to like some more South Korean cinema, a little bit more to Parasite, I think that there is going to be some type of social commentary coming from this. And like basically this is completely like this crazy game that's for like the benefit of a company that is obviously profiteering off of this, and they're profiteering off of these people's misery. And I agree with the first speaker that the main character he is like messed up, but like I've known people like the main character, and they're frustrating as hell. They are super frustrating, but there's a reason why they get to that point. They don't just one day they're that. There's a process where they get to that point.
I think I completely disagree with Inessa with the whole insufferability of the guy, and actually agree with the previous speaker that I was kind of rooting for him. The saving grace about this guy is when he got the money, and we all know he got the money from getting slapped, whatever. He gave, he has a heart. He has a heart. He gave his friend's mom some money for the mackerel. He gave the cat a slice of the mackerel, and that's like you can see that he's a good person inside, that he's just in a terrible place in life, that he's trying to get the 10,000 won. And does anyone know, because I'm Asian, I've been to Korea, and I lived in the Philippines for a very long time. Does anyone know how much 10,000 won is in America, in US dollars? See, that's really important, because 10,000 won is $8. So 100,000 won, which is he won with the slapping contest, is $80. And like, so 4 million won is like 3,000, like $30,000. Like so it's crazy, because the money in Korea the inflation is so high, but it's a very rich country. It's just that, you spend 10,000 won for food, like 20,000 won for food. But the 10,000 won that he asked from the lady back, that he tipped, was $8 to buy his daughter a birthday present, which turned out to be that lighter gun. I bet you 95% of the people watching on Netflix here in America do not know how much 10,000 won actually costs.
Remember the guy asked the question, how much do we win? And they dropped that big piggy bank, right? It was empty. So these people have no clue how much they're playing for, but they all were willing to do it. That really intrigued me. And kind of like, I was like, okay, these guys don't have a clue what we're playing for, but hey, we're in.
I love this discussion, but I want to go into the question that was asked, which was, did this episode give you the hook to continue watching? So someone who hasn't spoken yet.
Yeah, so I will say, like, I've heard all the hype about it. Everyone's super excited. I love foreign films. I mean, they're honestly my favorite. So watching it, at first I was super kind of disappointed. I was like, man, like, what is everyone so excited about? Like, I don't get it. But obviously I wanted to give it the chance, but it really wasn't until, he did the fingerprint with his blood that I was like, okay, something's dark and really twisted here. Like, this is about to get crazy.
Kind of expanding on what Skylar brought up. He kind of basically said, the beginning, he's wondering, what is it about this show that people are talking about? And then he gets towards the end and he's like, okay, I get it. So were there kind of two different shows that you felt like you were watching during the premiere, the beginning and then, the end, like, this is what this show is? Did anybody kind of go through those same kind of thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of had like somewhat of an idea what the show was about. So I'm like, when is it going to get bloody? And then like, I was kind of surprised how long it took for it to get bloody.
I semi-agree. I think that the beginning of it definitely did not hook me in, because I came into this, I thought it was a reality show, like a reality contestant game show. So I did not realize that this was a scripted show. And so the beginning of it, I appreciated the backstory of it, but I was ready for somebody to compete for something, because that's what I imagined it was going to be. Obviously, it went that way. And I appreciated, after the fact, the backstory that led up to why the main character, as well as others, got involved in the Squid Games, right down to their childhood and the symbolism of the squid and how it was played as a child. I thought was very much foreshadowing of red light, green light, which, by the way, if I had children right now, I would never let them out in the street to play anymore. Just saying.
Yeah, it took me quite a bit longer to get into the episode to start enjoying it. And I think my first criticism was I couldn't tell if the actor was overacting or if the voice actor was over recording. It really turned me off. And it wasn't until the monitor scene where all of a sudden they're let out of the floodgates that it grabbed me. So that was the impetus to say, yeah, I can watch episode 2 like in time, but I was able to. It took me a while to get hooked. I thought, oh boy, I got 8 more of these to get through, but but I think it was enough of a hook to bring me in.
So that's another interesting thing that Ed brought up. He said, the voice acting, he didn't know if it was, over the top or not. There's 2 ways to watch this show. One of which is to listen to it in Korean with the subtitles. The other way is to hear the English voice actor over the episode. So raise your hand if you watched this episode with the English voiceover. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. And then so raise your hand if you listen to it with Korean with subtitles. 1, 2, 3. So that's 4. So that's super interesting. I watched it with the Korean subtitles or the in Korean with the English subtitles. So I feel like it is very much watching kind of like 2 different shows, but there's no right or wrong way to listen to it. Another staple of a premiere or a pilot episode is a character. And Anessa, you started the ball rolling, but the goal of a show is for the audience to be invested in the protagonist. So let's just talk a little bit more about the lead character, Seong Gi-Hun. And for people who, kind of didn't speak on that earlier, is there anybody else who has, some takes on the main character, whether or not you liked it or didn't like it? Because there seems to be sort of a divide on this call.
I think he's got a very interesting arc that he's about to be on, he's, I think he's designed to want to be this very degenerate person, but that's what's going to make this really fun to watch, is to see how does this affect how he plays the rest of these games. Because I think what was really cool about it too was at the end of that first game, he gets saved by somebody who held on, right? And it's very poetic for just his existence in general. He always owes his life to somebody else.
Devon, do you have anything to say about the main character?
Pretty much the same as Brandon. I don't really like him right now, but I'm waiting to see if his character development gets better for people to actually start liking him.
I want to like him. I really, truly do. But I feel like he is a huge manipulator. I mean, even from the very first scene where he's asking his mom for more money, and then as soon as she leaves, he goes and gets his credit, the credit card. He knew it was there. He knew he was going to do it, but he still asked her for more money. So I feel like just taking that into account, and then with the whole ATM scene, and he's like, oh, she loves her granddaughter more than she loves her son. He doesn't have a mindset of really truly caring for anyone. I think he wants to. So I just think that he thinks he's probably a good person, but he's not. I think he is very much out for himself. And so I feel like with his character, this game is going to be perfect for him, because I feel like he's not going to care if someone dies.
And he also is very outspoken. He's there's a crowd of 456 people and you hear his voice the loudest. He makes a scene, and that doesn't jive with somebody who's down on their luck and just trying to scrape some coins together. The character is not consistent. And I think that's part of the writing, but it's going to make for a fun show anyway. So it'll be fun to watch.
The character is very dynamic, and people will either love him or hate him. Personally, for the reasons that Skylar and other people said, I personally don't like him. I think he's a little bit selfish, but I'm still finding myself rooting for him. In the games I see, and he's just frozen. There's this person who got shot and he's on his lap, and the main character, he's just frozen waiting for somebody to help him. And I'm sitting there on my couch and I'm get up, start running. You're going to get stuck and then you're not going to be able to go on in the game. So yeah, I was rooting for him, even though I don't really necessarily like his character or his moral compass, I guess you could say. But yeah.
Finally, the other staple thing of any good series premiere episode is the world that's built. So I just want to have a couple people touch on what do you feel about the world building of this first episode, the world that the Squid Games has created?
Specifically, once they all get into the games, you can see One thing that was very standout to me was when they're all lining up ready to go into the big field, is there's this colorful pastel intricate staircase. Like, why is it so elaborate? You can literally just have a blank gray hallway leading down there. You don't need this big elaborate thing. So I think that really plays into the world that the game creator is building. Like, it's going to be elaborate, it's going to be over the top. Why? Because I'm rich and I can, and these people who need the money are going to do it regardless if I make them walk up a purple staircase or just a regular hallway.
So when I was a kid and I was growing up in the Philippines, we'd watch these like old school Japanese game shows like Takeshi's Castle. And then obviously now there's iterations in the modern world. But I think like it's all decorated. They had no reason to make it decorated. It's just like Asian, like cinematic. That's their flavor. It all is like super duper decorated, super duper colorful. Like, and then yeah, they're gonna kill people. So like you're gonna fall off like obstacles and stuff. So I think it's an homage to like really traditional, like the old school Asian games in the past.
Having lived in Hong Kong and had, we would get the feeds or the programming from China, from Malaysia, from a lot of different places. And it is very over the top and very elaborate where it's not necessary. And I think it's almost like, well, this is happening with the right hand, but are you still watching the left hand? And I think that's a lot of what I saw and interpreted when I was watching that yesterday, was when we're seeing that elaborate hallway and the host in the solid one color mask and jacket and everything, looking at the monitors, what was the other hand doing? Okay. We don't know, because that's still to come. This was just literally the first hook in the show.
Initially, I was curious to see what South Korea looked like. And then we saw the betting, online betting and betting against horses. And it made me really think that we are all the same people, just living in different countries. We have the same addictions and the same drive for money and taking care of daughters and wives and ex-wives. We all have the same bad habits across the world. We really all are one person.
So now I'm going to move on to, we're going to watch two scenes and we're going to discuss these scenes.
야, 너 알지? 여자도 요즘 군대 많이 가는 거.
All right. So does anybody have anything to say about that scene in particular? Josh, I saw your hand raised.
I was laughing at that scene. That was one of the scenes that made me laugh, because this little girl sitting there holding, and we all assumed it was a real gun. I mean, I actually did. And she pulls the trigger aimed at her dad's face. It was just it kind of set the mood for the show. Where you're just like, expect the unexpected. It was kind of like a little, just a little snippet of everything's not what it seems in this show leading up to, when they went to the game itself.
I got tons of anxiety watching that scene. To be honest, like the entire aspect of that was crazy. I mean, maybe it's different for me, as my grandfather was literally murdered. Like, he was shot in the head with a gun. So that was actually like a really difficult scene for me to watch. So like, even watching it back, knowing what is happening, I still kind of got anxiety. Just like the idea of her like pulling the trigger and pointing it at him and all that, everything about it.
For me, I didn't focus on the gun. I focused on what seemed to be the relationship between daughter and father. It seemed like the daughter understood him and was used to the disappointments of what he has shown her before, but she put up with it, as his child, and kind of sees him as I see him, which is like off the wall, but you still have to invite him over for dinner every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Just kind of like reflecting on like my childhood and the relationship that I had with my parents at times. Like, two things about that scene really stood out to me. First of all, I don't know if you meant to show it, but the part where he was jumping up and down with the kid, first of all, it goes back to the whole manipulation thing. Like, he used that kid to get him a toy. And then he was so happy, he was literally hugging him and, jumping up and down. And the next scene, he's with his daughter, not even looking at her. So there was that. I was like, that's funny. Sad, but funny. But the next part was just the fact that like the daughter, I almost feel like she takes care of him when she's around.
All right, cool. We're going to watch the next scene. And I think you guys all know what this scene will be.
무궁화 꽃? 얘기할래? 누가 먼저 꼴이 나나?
5분 안에 술래의 눈을 피해 결승선에 들어오는 분들은 탈락.
All right. So just in case you forgot about that scene, does anybody have anything to say about that?
What I love most about that scene before all the chaos happens is the choice of words that the writers used. So in the very first scene, when they're talking about the Squid Games when they're children, when a kid crosses the perimeter, the boundary, they die, where we know they're just out of the game. Where now that they're adults, they're in this twisted game, they're eliminated, and we soon find out that means dying. So I really like the juxtaposition of the two of the wording that they use. So
that whole scene, you can literally see the dominoes fall. You know, like from the moment where the two young kids that are like super duper confident and cocky, right, first ones to get eliminated, right? You can see it from when the moment, even in the scene before that, where they're taking the pictures and the dude is like, oh, trying to, you know, get a cool pose in his shit. And he's the same dude that's like, oh, I'm going out there. And the next thing you know, it just looks like it reminds you of like prison fight scenes on television that you would see, right? Like just confined space, so much chaos. And it's like, I mean, of course, a lot more horrific, but you know, it's like that was probably the scene where everyone realized, oh shit, this is Squid Games. Okay.
I thought it was very interesting. I feel like the show's kind of like Alice in Wonderland. The more it goes on, the more bizarre it gets. But what I found very interesting was like, once people saw that you moved, you're going to get killed. The more they moved, the more they ran, the more they screamed. And I just was like, why are you moving? Why are you trying to run and get cover? It's not going to work.
I felt the same confusion that they felt in the game. So I don't know how they relayed that to like the viewer, but not knowing what was going to happen next, I could see where the people in the actual game had no clue what was going on.
I didn't even think about that. I appreciate that you said that, because like we kind of were taken on a journey. This entire show, actually, this entire episode, like we don't really know what it's about until the last like 10 minutes. And like even then we're like, okay, where is this going to go from here? But it's like, yeah, like it's an entire confusion fest is what it is. And it just culminated in like their deaths, their eliminations. It was crazy.
If we have some rich people watching this, like if that's what the whole point of this, and we have some voyeuristic people watching this, this is the actual moment that is probably going to be the purest moment for their entertainment that will ever happen in this entire game show, because this is the first time that they realize that they're playing for their lives. Like after this, they're going to know they're playing for their lives. So it's like not like as shocking to them, but this is the first time that the contestants figure this out. So as from a game master perspective, like this is the part where they're probably like getting off the most, you know, like, they're probably like, yes, but like, you know, in their sick head.
I was just gonna say, I think the old man or number one, I don't know his name, but I think he might have played before, because I feel like he was the only one like running around smiling and happy to actually play the game.
That's a really good perception. I actually never thought about that.
Really observant.
I agree. And he also like has a, you know, it was said in the episode, I think, that he has a brain tumor, so he has nothing to lose. He's gonna die at some point anyway, right? So it's a cool plot twist, and he's definitely a character and a foil to watch.
All right. Does anybody have the last bit of predictions as to where you think this show will be going from here?
Well, my prediction is that he's going to win at the end, and then the loan sharks are going to take all the money because he signed away everything.
Right now, my prediction is in episode 2, that last character you showed that saved the guy from falling is not going to make it to episode 3.
His kindness, I don't think will be repaid to him. I want to see him go on because of his kindness, but I don't see it being repaid.
It's not necessarily a prediction, but it's something that I think we need to like take into consideration. So one of the main parts of the first episode was that his daughter is moving to the US. So I feel like it's not just going to end with this game. Like there's got to be something else that has to do with his daughter leaving and trying to get her back. So I feel like he will win this game, but it's going to affect something, or maybe like the ex-wife's husband has something to do with this. I don't know. I just feel like we've got to consider those characters.
Can he be the game master?
He might be. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking at the end of the episode. I was like, could it be the stepfather? But I feel like that was kind of a reach, but we'll see.
You got
I truly believe it's the little kids in the beginning.
Any other predictions as far as games, future games that are concerned? Like what are some other child games that you expect to see?
Floor is lava.
I think we're going to see stuff like Red Rover, or tag, basic childhood games.
Hide and go seek.
Yeah, hide and go seek, stuff like that. Children before the internet actually went out and played in the streets and in the fields and in the parks near where you lived.
Great predictions, everyone. I love it. We'll see who was right and who was wrong in the coming weeks. It's the last part, 1 through 5, what you thought of this first episode. Josh, why don't we start off with you? 4, all righty. We got a 4. Jen? 4. Stan? 4. Popular number. Anessa? 2. All right, cool. Brandon? 4. Okay, cool. Satnam? 5. Okay, cool. Devon? 4. Skylar?
A 3 for this episode.
Kim? 4. All right. Ed? 3. Kiana? 3. Rachel? Last but not least. 3. Okay, got it. Cool. That means that on average, the score that this panel has set forth is a 3.5 for the first episode of Squid Game. All right, I would like to thank all of you for taking part in the first episode of Who Needs a Film Critic. To all those who are watching, please click like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We are just starting off, so we need all the support we can to continue this project and to discuss other movies and TV shows in the future with different panels. As far as the Squid Game is concerned, we will be returning shortly with the same participants, or the majority of the participants in this panel, to discuss episodes 2 through 4. If you'd like to take part in a future panel or of another movie or TV show, please email me at whoneedsafilmcritic@gmail.com. And until then, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Have a good one. Cool. We did it.